Hello and a warm welcome to Federal special program Capital Beat. Has the president's rule in Manipur failed miserably? That's a question which everyone is asking. With the recent cycle of violence, Home Minister Amit Shah is once again dependent on former Chief Minister CM N Biren Singh, who was the man caught in the crossfire because he could not contain the clashes between the Cookies and the Meiteis. The president's rule was imposed, if you remember, in February, and from February till June, which this period which you have seen has not been very smooth. In fact, the recent cycle of violence has again shook the northeastern state of Manipur. So the question we are asking today is that what is the reason, first of all, for the recent cycle of violence which we have seen? Second, is Manipur beyond the bounds of BJP's president's rule? Who are the forces which are derailing the peace in Manipur? And more importantly, why is Amit Shah still dependent on N Biren Singh? Joining me now are is a special panel of guests today. Professor Xavier Mao from the Northeastern Hill University. Professor joins us. Thank you so much for joining. We have Prasenjit Biswas, who's also from the Northeastern Hill University. Thank you so much. And we have Samir Purkasta, who's a senior editor with the Federal. Thank you so much, Samir, for joining. And let me begin with Professor Xavier Mao. Professor Mao, the recent cycle of violence which we have seen in Manipur. Now, the basic question which everyone wants to know is that the president's rule was imposed in Manipur so that this cycle of violence could be contained. If this violence still hasn't been able to be contained, by the home minister, by the center, what is the reason for that?
Violence definitely has been contained. If we compare to the past and today, that is after the imposition of president's rule, violence is much less. And at the moment, the kind of violence is, I would say, irrational kind of outburst of anger in support of the criminals, which is not at all rational. The arrest of Arambai Tengol or even the Kuki village volunteer so-called force who have been arrested by the CBI and NIA. So this arrest is in a way very good, but the public's, not by the reasonable people, some of them have been protesting against the arrest, which is not at all reasonable and rational. And it is because of that, now even the ban call for 10 days by the Aramba Tengol has been also withdrawn, because with the flood situation in Manipur, the daily requirements are also in complete acute short supply. And on the whole, I would say president's rule is really very, very good. Violence has become much less, although sophisticated weapons have not been recovered, though a few have been recovered, and ordinary weapons, a lot of them have been recovered, and even some of the underground people have been also arrested. So definitely there is overall improvement in the situation. And I should say this president's rule should still continue. Though politicians, they're eager to form the government and they want to hold the government. So that is for their selfish interest. So I think this definitely situation is much better. Even bunkers have been removed from all the districts, for which is a big improvement.
So let me come to Samir now, and I want to put the things in perspective with him because he's seen the things happening closely over there. To begin with, Samir, what is the reason for this latest cycle of violence? Now, why again the Cookies and the Meiteis are clashing when there was a spell of calm and peace? What suddenly led to this trigger? And what has gone wrong? Are the things really beyond the control? What is really happening on the ground, on what has happened and what we have seen in the last 1 week almost?
See, the latest bout of violence which we have witnessed after the arrest of an Arambai Tengol lead is not between the two community. It is not Meiteis versus Cookies. This time the cycle of violence was actually targeted against the government. And Arambai Tengol volunteers, they took to the streets and tried to impose ban in protest against the arrest of their leader. So this cycle of violence is not exactly is not communal, this uh, inter-community clash. But as Professor Mao has pointed out, in the past few months we have seen that there has been no such clash, inter-community clashes. But but this decline in this clash by itself doesn't means restoration of normalcy. See, the Manipur is going through a very peculiar condition wherein the people from one community, they cannot go to the areas dominated by another community. So there is complete balkanization, and unless and until a favorable atmosphere is created for free movement of people, then then this restoration of trade between various areas like Kuki. Earlier, people from Kuki areas, they used to bring their produce to markets in Imphal Valley and vice versa. But now these things are completely stopped, and which is taking severe toll on the state's economy. So, just mere end of violence will not, lead to normalcy. And in that regard, the president rule has not, not succeeded in convincing in convincing both the confronting parties to even sit to the negotiating table and iron out the differences, so that a genuine peace can be restored. But that is not happening. So what we are seeing is that yes, after imposition of president rule, the clashes between the two communities has come down, largely because there is in the with the, in the there is very little chance of mixing the one community coming uh, bumping on the another community is not happening. There is no chance because they are all holding up in their respected areas of domination. So naturally there is when there is no interaction, there is no clash. And this is a very peculiar situation. So we expect that the president rule, at least under president rule, this attempt will be made to convince the both the confronting parties to sit together and iron out their differences. But one such attempt in New Delhi has failed, where where the Meitei group has refused to participate. So, and yesterday, this with the Kuki militant groups, the government had a talks for the first time in 2 years, wherein they tried to convince these groups to at least allow movement of free movement through the national highways which are passing through Kuki areas. So. But but so far no positive response has come. Uh, and during if you remember during this recent.
One thing, that is there what you have explained. But why is Home Minister Amit Shah still so dependent on Biren Singh? Because he was the man who was in the crossfire. He was the man who was perceived as someone who cannot handle Manipur. Why is Amit Shah still dependent on N Biren Singh? And there was another Rajya Sabha MP apparently who accompanied him. But
Yeah,
why?
Sanjay.
Yes. So why being dependent on him so much? Is he still so indispensable to the center? That's what I want to ask you.
So there is two reasons. First, let me address this question: why they had been this Biren Singh and Sanajova has been summoned to New Delhi yesterday. See, there is an allegation that, and it's an open secret, that Sanajova is the ideological head of this group called Arambai Tengol, and then Biren Singh also will considerable influence on this group. So they were summoned, as per my understanding, the two of them were summoned to, convince Arambai Tengol to withdraw their stay. They were imposing 10-day ban, and as you have seen today, the Arambai Tengol has suspended their ban. They have curtailed it today. So that is one of the reason why this Biren and Sanajaba was summoned to New Delhi. So this is just my guess, though we are not privy to actually what happened in New Delhi. But but as far as BJP's dependency on Biren Singh, yes, the BJP, there is some kind of belief among the BJP central leadership that either Biren Singh or no one. So that is one of the reason why the BJP has failed to elect a new legislative party leader after a group revolted against Biren Singh. So and the central leadership is still banking on him for some strange reason, and so I'm not actually I this is, it's everybody is just it's just everybody is guessing. It's a guessing game going on as to what prompting the BJP central leadership to depend so much on Biren Singh. And there are some wild rumors also doing the rounds in Manipur. But that apart, yes, the BJP leadership still feel that he is the best person for the party to bank on, though a large group of among the BJP MLAs, they feel that because of the Biren Singh, the BJP is losing ground in the state, and in the next assembly election, it will be very difficult for them to even get vote of their family members. In fact, one MLA during my recent visit to Imphal told me that even his aunt told him that if you contest from the BJP, I'm not going to vote you in the next election. So, but I don't know what feedback the BJP central leadership is getting from their state, their Northeast in charge and Manipur in charge, Sambit Patra, and other central agencies like SIV and all. But in the ground zero, there is growing resentment against the BJP, and that many say is because of the Biren Singh mishandling of the entire crisis.
All right, so I'll come to Prasenjit Biswas. Prasenjit, how are you seeing and visualizing the things what are happening on the ground? And my first question, of course, to you is that has the president's rule failed in Manipur, or is it working, but working in patches, or maybe working in small spells that you'll see spells of calm and peace, and then again, there are certain elements which are trying to trigger violence. How do you really see the situation? Is the president's rule really working or not working?
President's rule is certainly working in terms of organizing security, in terms of also applying laws. But everywhere there are some interested parties, vested interests. Laws are applied in an asymmetric manner. You can see Arambai Tengol's cadres have been released, while NIA has taken some of the Kuki activists into his custody, and they are still in custody. Kuki MP has called for a ban in Kuki hill areas of Manipur. So therefore, you can see an asymmetric, uneven application of law. Application of law also is somewhat contingent, convenience, or some kind of a, it has to be qualified in a certain way. I do not see it as being applied in an even-handed manner without any bias. So president rule is actually a kind of an architecture, and within that architecture, certain events have been happening. For example, killing of PDF cadres, those who were in Myanmar, they were killed by Assam Rifles. And that Assam Rifles company was led by someone, you know, and that someone becomes a point of controversy. Similarly, action by security forces has always remained controversial, even though it's a president's rule. So the security advisor and the president's office, or one who is running at the behest of the president, has to coordinate it very well. Off and on, they are trying to look at things in a political way. And the moment politics comes in, the ruling party steps in, it comes and demands lifting of the president's rule. So people who are observant and who are independent minded won't like that the president's rules be lifted at this point of time, as political vested interests will find a newer technique to create a situation of muddling the situation of peace. And therefore, peace is coming at a heavy cost. And the cost is that cost is in terms of always trying to buttress the interest of a certain community against another, even in the functioning of the security and the legal system as well. So that is a structural problem in Manipur, that the law enforcing agencies cannot remain neutral, that the judiciary also often gets tilted. Now, the social condition and the situation of Manipur as a multi ethnic state should have been far more balanced. But the balance is not there historically. There is historical injustice to the people of the hills. They have less representatives, while Valley has higher representative. Distribution of funds, as it is well researched now, is something very uneven, and therefore you have uneven development. And this is part of the everyday experience of an ordinary citizen. And therefore, the civil society groups, various kinds of activists are able to organize themselves. And this kind of a stimulus based organizing into a protest or into resistance results often into a certain kind of a clash. So those ground level factors have not been removed by president's rule. President rule has created a top down architecture, and that is probably not working as satisfactorily as desired. So therefore, certain things have to be reworked upon. And one of the major things that needs to be reworked upon is that security forces have to be absolutely neutral. And there should not be Meitei or Kuki officials leading Assam Rifles or CAPF or CRPF. There should not, leadership should not be in the hands of conflicting communities. That is one thing that president rule must ensure, and that has not been ensured. And that has resulted into skirmishes, clashes, misunderstanding, and all the time ruffling of feathers of each other, strategies and counter strategies to defeat each other. So that has created a big problem for the situation of peace and tranquility that returned to Manipur for a while. Yeah, Neil.
All right. So, Professor Xavier Mao, now the thing is that how does the situation move on from here? How long will the president's rule continue? Because I was reading a few reports. I think Samir can correct me if I'm wrong. That there is a call for to put the popular government in place. People feel that president's rule, of course, cannot be the long-term solution for a state like this. You have to elect a government. You have to hold elections. So, what about those calls? And who are these people who are genuinely wanting an elected government in Manipur and not the president's rule? Are there efforts towards it? What are the parties doing? Yes, sir, Professor Mao.
Well, president's rule has to continue for longer time in
Okay.
order to settle the serious communal clashes. But of course, this cannot be the final solution. For the final solution, of course, permanent, lasting kind of political arrangement has to be made. That is, as my predecessor has stated, the imbalance budget distribution, the imbalance representation is actually a very, very long-lasting, enduring wound, so to say, between the hills and the valley. And that is why there is a lot of demand. Either it should be trifurcation or bifurcation. In bifurcation, all hill areas as one union territory and the valley as another union territory or a separate state, or trifurcation may be Naga area one, and then Kuki Zomar area one, Imphal Valley for the Meitei another. With the same budget allocation can be divided among the three areas, then that would be the long-lasting, enduring solution. Otherwise, from time to time, due to grievances and genuine grievances, problem arises. Problems keep arising. You see, but of course, I would say, in my personal opinion, President's rule has to continue for some more time, so that the arms and ammunition can be taken away from the insurgent, so that they will not have that confidence to fight against each other community. So although taking away is not in a very big way, but definitely some of the arms and ammunition have been taken away. And definitely the security forces, along with the Manipuri police or IRB, with CBI and NIA, jointly they are able to do some work which is much better than under the state government. And I can very much guarantee that the central government also would like their own same BJP government to rule in Manipur. But because of the conflicts involved among the different community, humanly speaking, unless one is highly moral and highly ethical, they can never ever be fully neutral and impartial in dispensing administration. Therefore, it can continue, President rule can continue for some more time, and thereafter, of course, before the 2027 state assembly election, well, popular government can be
You are saying
installed.
that they will withdraw the president's rule just before 2027 when elections are due. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. But
All
of course, not throughout, but the serious trouble can be reduced, because by removing the bunkers, by taking away the arms and ammunition, definitely violence can be reduced. But by this, I'm not saying there will be complete reduction of violence. No, that long-lasting, that historical injustice is corrected. This will keep popping up from time to time. So that has to be addressed. And after all, drawing of the boundary line is not at all sacrosanct. According to the need, according to the time, and according to the aspiration of the public, the genuine aspiration, legitimate interest of the public, whoever is there in the authority, in the place of authority, they have to address to that, not in terms of short-term gain or vested interest of the different parties. It has to be looked at from a holistic point of view for the greater interest of the nation and for the region, and different communities' interests, legitimate interests, have to be addressed. That should be the way, I would say, and that will settle the long-term problem.
All right, so let me come in for the concluding remarks to you, Samir, first, and then I'll come to Prasenjit. Yes, so what would you really say? How are the political parties going to respond to this situation, which is evolving in Manipur, or you see this as a temporary clash, which probably will subside because president's rule is the safety net in a way for the state at the moment?
See, the president rule is not very warmly welcomed in the valley, which comprise where the home to the majority Meitei community. So, and unless and until this regime get the support from the majority community, it will continue to face this kind of pushback. And there will be growing demand for reinstallation of popular government. So now I don't think that for the this president rule can continue for the long run, mm, without the support of Meitei community, because now the governor, the current governor, is even facing trouble to travel by road within the Imphal city. The other day, after he returned from New Delhi, mm, he had to from Imphal airport to Raj Bhavan, he had to go by a chopper, because because there were protests on the streets. As you know, some influential Meitei civil society organization has uh, launched a civil disobedience movement against the Raj Bhavan. So in this kind of hostile atmosphere, it will be very difficult for even the current regime to continue for a long. And I think this could be one of the reasons why Biren Singh and Sanajova were summoned to New Delhi. The Home Ministry must be, asking them to go back and try to convince the agitating party to cooperate with the state administration. So, and as far as the larger issue of this communal tension, there can be long-term and short-term solution. The immediate long-term, short-term solution will be that at least some sort of negotiation should start. Because ultimately there cannot be military solution to this problem has to have a political solution. And for a political solution, the first and foremost requirement is negotiation, talks, dialogue. So both the communities and their leaders will have to sit together and hammer out a solution. But unfortunately, no headway could be made in this regard. Rather, because of some kind of small mistakes which are being made, and and due to which even the present regime's neutrality time to times have come under question, as Professor Biswas pointed out. If you remember, during this Siroi Lily festival, the one Manipur state transport bus were forced to remove the word Manipur from it. So this has again triggered a strong reaction from the Meitei community. So they rightly so started asking whether the use of the word Manipur is prohibited in the state of Manipur. So so this kind of action under the president rule is sending out wrong signal. And then this recent this killing of PDF volunteers of Myanmar, which even the Myanmar's national unity government has took serious exception to. So this kind of action, instead of resolving the problem, is making the problem more complicated. And but having said so, for reinstallation of the popular government, it will not be that easy, because in a house of 60, there is neither camp has the requisite number to form the government. This, as you know, the BJP Manipur BJP is almost vertically divided. So neither group has number of this majority number of 30. So in this situation, even if the center wants to restore, reinstate the popular government, it will not be easy, because both the camps are sticking on the leadership issue. The Biren Singh camp is insisting that Biren Singh should be
Right.
allowed to continue as the chief minister, while the dissident group is saying that they were anyone but Biren Singh. So in this kind of situation, the reinstatement of a popular government is very difficult.
That is going to be difficult. Yes. Okay. So reinstatement of a popular government is going to be very difficult, and that's what Samir has explained. So, Prasenjit, what about the overall condition on Manipur as your concluding remark? Then, yes. Unmute and just unmute yourself, Prasenjit. You're
Yeah,
muted.
yeah, it's a great crisis of legitimacy in Manipur, because legitimacy is the most important element of any constitutional rule governed system. So what is happening is that individual actors are taking decisions that do not reflect the collective sensibility, nor it reflects the totality of the situation. So therefore, decision making process itself has gone bunk in case of Manipur. Every hour, every day, there is a new development, and there is an assertion of a certain group against another group. Now, this kind of a situation could be controlled only if all the vested interested parties, various representative groups, cookie groups have clearly spelled out who are their representative groups to take part in talk. So center has started the talk. Similarly, center has to talk to Meitei groups as well, and both the groups at some point or the other on concrete lists of demands which are negotiable and which are legitimate. On those grounds they could be brought together at a kind of a at a kind of some kind of an accommodation of each other. That is not happening. As Professor Mao has said, the other option is to trifurcate the state. That is a kind of a historical consequence of the present conundrum. I am not able to say much on this, but I can say up to this that political negotiation, by granting autonomy to, let's say, Kuki people, by fulfilling the demand of the Naga movement, by also giving a certain amount of whatever is needed for the Meitei Valley people has to be given, so that the three conflicting groups can come together and can develop a kind of a consensus. Center is not working on that, and that remains as a major problem until there is a concerted effort to build up consensus, to create a sense of agreement, to create a sense of understanding between each other. The problem will persist, and it will result into skirmishes, unfortunate incidents, and mistrust will keep growing by the day. So this is what we are at the abyssal situation of Manipur at this point of time, and I hope somebody recovers us from this abyss and finds a political way out towards a better day tomorrow. That will be the kind of expectation from the central government, because that is in control of everything actually in Manipur. So central
Absolutely.
government has to
Yes.
carry this historical responsibility, this burden on its head, and has to come out with a proper scientific political solution to the issues at hand in Manipur.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you rightly put out that this is a crisis of legitimacy, and how will the central government manage this with the president's rule? And as Professor Xavier said, that president's rule will not end soon, but the next elections are due in 2027. Will the center withdraw the president's rule around that time? We'll have to wait and watch, but we just hope and pray that there is peace and calm in Manipur. A lot has happened in the last 1.5 to 2 years. But the biggest question still remains: why is Prime Minister not going to Manipur? No one has the answers to that. On that note, I'll end the program. Thank you so much, Professor Xavier Mao, Prasenjit Biswas, Samir. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank
Thank
you.
you.